Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to CineFix. So we are in the new stage, and we're still dialing some stuff in, so don't give me any shit in the comments below about all the red. We're working on it. We're working it out. We're about to get a whole racks of weapons like in the Matrix here in a minute.
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah.
But we've got a few minutes to kill before then. So we thought we were going to try something new. This is going to be a new show that we're doing here on CineFix. It's going to be called something along the lines of Second Chances. To be perfectly honest, we haven't decided what the title of this video is going to be yet. But on this show, we're going to give second chances to movies that we just feel like maybe you need to give a second chance to.
Yeah.
Right?
Everyone deserves it.
You know, maybe these movies got like a bum rap to begin with. Maybe they were before their time. You know, there's a lot of different reasons why a movie you kind of wrote off is worth going back to take another look at. So, the first such movie that we're going to talk about, Waterworld.
Hell yeah.
I got a Doug and I got a hell yeah right off the bat. So, Waterworld. Waterworld deserves a second chance. Why?
Okay, first off, Waterworld got a bad rap to begin with. You know, there's a bunch of reasons it did, in part because of the extreme budget overruns.
Yeah.
You know, the fact is that they had a set that sank and they had to rebuild it. I mean, they used up all of the steel in Hawaii. I get it, you know, it had issues when it was being made.
Sure.
But the fact is that the movie itself is actually really cool. Now, if you liked Mad Max Fury Road, that story is pretty much Waterworld, okay?
Yeah.
It's a really interesting world. The science in it is, even though it's not entirely accurate, you know, if the polar ice caps melted, it wouldn't cover the entire world in water.
No. It didn't. There's dry land left. We just don't know where it is.
It's true. But,
We just have to follow an arrow that points straight up on a child's back. And we'll get there.
Right, yeah.
Could you imagine if dry land is just out of sight beyond that horizon and you go that way? That would suck. Anyway.
What a terrible movie. I specifically recall a moment where the bad guy is trying to get the attention of a henchman and they're going, Chuck, Chuck, Chuck. And then he goes, maybe he doesn't like Chuck. Let's call him Charles. Like, Charles, Charles. I'm like, why is this in the movie?
You just can't hear him because he's firing those
Right,
giant guns. Yeah.
But like this whole conversation is like, that's not necessary.
That's a joke. It's comic relief. I'm not going to begrudge it for comic relief. I do think, though, in a post-Fury Road world that we now live in, you're absolutely. Waterworld is like the negative image of Fury Road because
But not in a bad way.
No, that's not why.
Not
That's
that
not
kind
the
of
bad way that I'm about to get to.
Like,
Because the stories are, you're right, they're roughly the same. It's this completely changed global landscape, and it's topical in the sense that global warming and the polar ice caps melting because of holes in the ozone layer was a very in vogue thing to talk about back when Waterworld was made. And even the mythology of the movies is so out there. Like Mad Max, there's a lot of crazy in Mad Max. Yeah. But we go with it because we don't deal with it that much. It's just presented to us and we sort of make of it whatever we want. The problem with Waterworld is that it deals with it too much. It's got all of that like silly mythology and then there's all of these little characters that like sort of express and accentuate the mythology of what the world is like now that it's water. And I don't care. Like, I don't care about them, and that's the kind of thing that pulls me out of the movie.
You know, I think the thing with Waterworld is, first off, it is the most unglamorous post-apocalypse ever. No one wants to live there. Like, I think there's a few of us who are like, you know what, in the Mad Max world, I think I could do it. I think I
could be a war boy.
Yeah. Nothing about Waterworld makes you want to live there. It just sucks. But, you know, I think the theme for this movie, it was sort of like Avatar for me, where, like, they were just trying to do a positive message, which I appreciated. I mean, and you got to remember the time period it came out in the early 90s, you know, the bad guys are the smokers. And I remember back then.
Literally just smokers.
Yeah, they're called the smokers. But, you know, my dad was so angry in the early 90s because it kept on, like, he couldn't eat at this restaurant anymore because he was a smoker. And so there was a conversation about that. But it was also, like, it's a kind of a weirdly, there are some things that are consistent in this world. Like, a lot of it was about, like, recycling and, like, making sure that, like, you know, like, in the beginning, he's recycling his own pee so that he can drink. When the bad guys...
That's like first shot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
like
literally
first
his
shot,
piss
yeah.
going into it. Yeah.
But even the shot where, like, the guy is, you know, with the Chuck Charleston you're talking about, the guys using the machine gun, they bother to cut to a shot of guys cleaning up the brass because you're like, oh, yeah, they need to make more bullets. And that's what I like about the movie is there is this consistent need to scavenge and be post post-apocalyptic, which a lot of movies I don't think really kind of gloss over. And I was really impressed that they did that. It had a lot of verisimilitude that like really impressed me a lot.
Yeah, to that point, I do remember enjoying seeing all the practical effects and how the world functions. Things are like evolving, you know, with the, I remember this big arm coming out and there were like these big steel things extending out of it and it was all very clunky and hard and you could really feel it.
Yeah, like his catamaran
That was
looked
cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah, like all that stuff was awesome. But for me though, it didn't excuse the fact that the villain was not terrifying at all. He's campy, and it's a campy movie. He's funny. It's a campy movie, but they wouldn't admit it almost. You
Well,
know?
here's part of the problem, that the original script was actually written as a kids movie.
Okay, that makes
Comedy
sense.
for
Yeah,
kids,
but then they realized that maybe this wasn't the right way to go about it, and so they brought in David Toohey and Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
Joss freaking Whedon, people.
Not just that, David
to do
Toohey,
remakes.
the guy who made
Yeah.
Pitch Black.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you've got a whole group of people that like worked on Mad Max movies and stuff like that. It's this phenomenal group of people making this movie that sort of faced a bunch of issues, and so it's largely considered a flop because of the budgetary things.
A lot of it actually reminded me of Three Ninjas. Do you remember that one?
Three Ninjas is
Three
going to be a
Ninjas.
great one for
It
the
is
show.
so much better than
Because-
It
Three
reminds me of Three Ninjas mixed with Surf Ninjas. Especially
Oh,
the villain
come
from
now.
Surf
Okay,
Ninjas,
it is so
Leslie
much
Nielsen.
better
He's
than
totally
that.
the
It is so
same
much
guy.
better than
Casey, you're just
He's the
trying to be
same
contrary,
guy.
okay?
No, I'm telling you,
You know
it's
what?
the same.
It's really not.
First off, he's a merman or an
Yeah.
X-Man because he's got gills and
He
he's
does
got
have
web
gills.
feet. He's the next evolution
Yeah,
of
but
humanity in a Waterworld.
But Kevin Costner has sad face, so there's nothing heroic about
Well,
him.
he's a sad guy.
I know.
No, I
That's,
think
that's
he's
kind of the
awesome.
thing about him,
Sad face.
and that's the thing about him
Yeah,
that
that's the only face he had.
we sort of like that in our heroes now, like
Yeah.
that type of hero, that like
Yeah.
stoic,
Yeah.
no real emotion, but he's gonna do the right thing, and you know you can count on
But
him.
he was
kinda
so
hero.
sad he almost didn't react to things. Even when the lady brought out her hot cans, just nothing there.
Yeah. Well, there was a little something there. That's why
There
they were on
was.
this shot.
Yeah.
They lived on a
Right,
close
there
up
was
of
a
Kevin
little bit of
Costner
a-
like checking out her hoots
Right.
for like a solid minute. And he did a lot of work in that. That's where he earned his paycheck, I think. But look,
Just don't steal his crayons, okay?
I do think the one thing, and I'm not trying to compare this movie to Mad Max, even though that's sort of why the movie is relevant enough to take another look at, because we all loved Mad Max, and it's roughly the same story. But I think where this movie goes too far is, I mean, doing all the stuff where they like dive under the ocean and then they find the dirt like underwater, and he's like flipping through magazines like, look, it's like a copy of Newsweek or whatever, and it's just like that's the kind of explanation that pulls me out of the world, which is weird because they're like logicking their way through it and explaining what happened, but I don't care. And that's what was so good about Mad Max.
No, I
is
love
that they
that.
didn't explain really anything that happened. It's just like, here's the situation we're in, here's the bad guy that we're fighting, and we're off.
But the other thing is that you know, we love to complain here. You know, the fact is that when they don't explain things, we complain the same thing. Why the does he have plants? How does he have dirt? You know, like
I
people.
didn't care. Like
but-
that didn't occur to me at all.
But that's the thing. People generally whine about that crap because it's like, why do they have? But that people do want at least brief explanations, and that was a simple one. You go underwater, there's dirt.
So, are you going to recommend people give this movie a second chance?
If you have a kiddie pool handy and you have plenty of sunscreen, it might make for a fun evening. It's just something different to do, you know what I mean?
No idea why you need a kiddie pool and sunscreen.
It's better than a couch. Immersion is what I'm going for
okay,
here,
there it
guys.
is. There it is.
Make an event of it, otherwise it's pointless.
All right, Anna, I have a feeling what your answer is.
Yeah, give it a second shot because it's fun and it's cool. And who knew that water skis could be cool?
No.
Lots of
And
people, actually.
badass.
I feel like. Although I will say the scene where the plane is dragging people like on water skis up over the ramp
that was a
into
little
the
much.
atoll.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
dude, you have a plane. Why don't you just drop people?
Yeah.
It does look cool.
But the ramps are there.
The ramps are there. We did
gotta
spend
use
all
them.
this time building these ramps.
I mean, the movie, it's a big swing. I mean, they did try to do
Yeah.
something giant and it's unwieldy, and it's not perfect by any means, and there are some tonal shifts, but I feel like they created this really interesting post-apocalypse that's unique, and I love the character of the Mariner, and I think, honestly, it was a movie that overall was taken down really by politics when it first came out. I remember everyone my age, we were little kids at the time, liked Waterworld, and all the adults were like, this liberal Costner and the smokers and the oil and the global warming isn't even a real thing. And like, and it was so assassinated before it even came out. Like people were like frothing at the mouth for it to do that.
Afloat.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but everyone's like, $230 million for a movie? That's never gonna happen again.
So you say give it a second
Yeah,
chance?
I say give it a second chance because it's unique and cool. It's unique and cool, and like,
Okay.
and, like, I'm not saying it by any means it's the best post-apocalyptic movie.
Not at all.
But it's not a bad movie either.
In spite of all of the things that I said about the movie, I absolutely say give it a second chance. It's going to remind you a lot of the things that you loved about Fury Road.
Yeah.
Even though they are more on the nose and I think delivered with a little less charm. But point is, give it a second chance because it's not bad.
Wait, do you
It's
also
fun.
require a kiddie pool?
No, I don't. So to sum up, we have 3, go ahead and give it a second chance, and 1, probably not, yawn. So get down in the comments below. Let us know if you're going to give Waterworld a second chance. And if you have watched it recently, let us know what you think about it down in the comments below. And also let us know what other movies you think we should do on this show and whether or not you like this show at all. Click like and subscribe. Stick around at CineFix for more movie stuff and us sitting under heat lamps, or looking like we're sitting under heat lamps.
I feel like I'm in a White Castle.
You might be.